Hey, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who all learned this truth from the root well. Peace and salutations to the 144,000, to the rest of the 1/3, the large multitude. Unto you I say shalom. Come to you back with another lesson through the Spirit. Now I'm entitled this one. It don't matter how much money you make, we're still in captivity. And the main ones who want to stay in this captivity are the nation of Israel. You know, they're comprised of these so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, and Israelite foreigners scattered throughout the four corners of the earth and make it look like the other heathen nations, but ultimately their lineage goes back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Especially here in America, 2/3 of the nation of Israel, their mindset isn't wanting to be freed from this captivity. You know, ultimately because Esau, Edom has given them these 9-to-5s, these careers, you know, a lot of Jake. And when I'm saying Jake, you know, that's a short for Jacob, which is a nickname, you know, for the 12 tribes. You know, Jake is comfortable here in America, just like in the past captivities, you know, in the Neo-Babylonian captivity, when they were given the opportunity to go back to the land of Israel, you know, and build up the temple again. You know, a lot of Israelites stayed in Babylon, you know, in the Neo-Babylonian captivity, you know, ultimately because they were comfortable. You know, they had the dainties, they had the you know, the nice looking cities. And it's the same thing today, you know, just like in the Roman captivity. You know, a lot of Jake, you know, they didn't want to come out of that Hellenistic lifestyle. They wanted to continue to be Romans, Greeks, you know, ultimately because it feels good to the flesh. And even here in America, you know, a lot of Jake is doing way better than the self-proclaimed white man Esau, Edom. So therefore, you know, they don't want to really leave this captivity because they're comfortable. You know, they have their house or their apartment. You know, a lot of Jake is millionaires. You know, they got businesses. They're doing well off. You know, entrepreneurs. You know, they might have made investments in the stock market. You know, and now they're pretty well off. And a lot of Jake, you know, they don't want to leave this captivity here in Babylon the Great, which is America. Instead, they want to stay here for as long as possible, but we know that that's not going to be the case. We know that this place is going to be destroyed by the way of fire. So us of the hopeful elect, we have the mindset of being pilgrims, you know, knowing that all this stuff is going to be done away with very soon. But, you know, 2/3 of the nation of Israel here in America, especially here in America, because America, this is the land of you know, the city paved with golden streets. You know, a lot of heathens, the heathen nations outside of America, you know, they look at this place as the greatest place ever. You know, but when they come over here and they realize that this place really isn't what it seems to be. You know, because you got America, you know, being portrayed as the greatest city ever. You know, everybody's rich, everybody's, you know, a millionaire here, but that's propaganda being pushed out by Esau, Edom, you know, ultimately to get all these different nations to come over here to be invested in this place. But, you know, this place is it's on a collapse. It's on the verge. It's on the brink of a collapse. You know, but still, Jake is still in that mindset of wanting to build so-called generational wealth, and that's gonna get him put to death, because when that digital system, you know, gets put in place, when this current system being ran by the federal note, the US dollar, it gets put to an end, and that new digital currency system gets made mandatory by the way of the MOTB, the charagma, a lot of Jake is going to take it. They're going to take that charagma, ultimately because they want their so-called riches, assets, wealth, whatever they might have built up over the years living here in America, Babylon the Great. they're going to want those riches back. And the only way to get those riches back is going to be by taking that charagma, the MOTB. And 2/3 of the nation of Israel, which is majority of Jacob, they're going to go down and take it, because they don't have that hope in the kingdom of heaven. Their hope is here in America. This is their kingdom. That's why, like it says, this world, the world to come was made for a few, but this current world was made for many. And this world was made for many, for 2/3 of the nation of Israel. A lot of Jake, they might have made it to the NFL, the MLB, the NBA. They might have made it as actors in Hollywood, but ultimately they had to do foul and degenerate things to get that money, to get crumbs, because a lot of Jake, they might have got millions, some of them might have got billions. You got your Kanye West, your Diddy, but now Yahweh Shemel Shai is bringing them down low. He's exposing them, being Mose, being PEDOS, all sorts of degenerate behavior, so ultimately all this money, all this wealth that Esau Edom has given our people, it's a stumbling block. A gift destroyed the heart. This is Haggai chapter 1 and verse 6. Ye have sown much and bring in little. Ye eat, but ye have not enough. Ye drink, but ye are not filled with drink. Ye clothe you, but there is none warm. And he that earneth wages to put it in the bag with holes. And that's right. We're constantly having to work these jobs, go to these 9-to-5s. A lot of Jake have to work 60, 70 hours just to get by. Living paycheck to paycheck. Some Jake hasn't, or their rent prices have been highly inflated. To the point where you're either going to pay your rent or buy food, buy groceries. And we're coming into those times where all this stuff we've came to learn and got accustomed to, going to work, going to the grocery stores, pretty much that American lifestyle, being comfortable. That's all going to be done away with very soon. And us of the hopeful elect, we're going to have to walk away from all this, but Jake, they don't know anything else. This is all they know. So, and for them to be able to live, this lifestyle again, they're going to go down to Esau Edom for help. They're going to look for that savior, that form of being able to live this Babylonian lifestyle again. And they're going to have to take that charagma, that MOTB. And a lot of Jake, they're going to comply with Esau Edom's new system. But ultimately it's all a stumbling block. Esau Edom, he's going to offer that universal basic income. Each month he's going to put a certain amount of whatever the new currency is going to be, and pretty much you're going to own nothing and be happy. Like the W to the E to the F ex-president said, and eventually Yahweh Shemel Shai is going to have to put an end to this devil system, because we're in slavery, we're still in slavery, but we're going to be, or more, I should say, we're shifting towards that new form of slavery, which is going to be a digital slavery, which 2/3 of the nation of Israel and these heathens are going to be put into. But us, of the hopeful elect, we know we're going to have to walk away from this current system, or from the new system that's going to be introduced. That new beast system ran by the MOTB, the charagma. This is Baruch chapter 3 and verse 8. Behold, we are yet this day in our captivity, where thou hast scattered us for a reproach and a curse, and to be subject to payment according to all the iniquities of our fathers, which departed from the Lord, Yahweh Shemel Shai power. And that's right, we're still in captivity, we're still in slavery. We're scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. Ultimately because we went off. We broke the first covenant. Like in Deuteronomy chapter 28. If we kept the covenant, then we will be blessed. But if we went off, then we will be pretty much have the curses put upon us, which they're still upon us to this day, but they're being lifted ultimately because the elect, the remnant, we've came back, to the Heavenly Father. We repented. We woke up to the fact that we're Israelites, that we're the true nation of Israel, that the people out there in the Holy Land isn't the true people. We came back to our heritage, but ultimately only us are the hopeful elect. Lord willing, we're a part of that number. We'll get delivered out of this captivity, but 2/3 of the nation of Israel, and even the ones that know that they're Israelites, especially these other camps, the Sakari, the IUIC, the ISUPK, a lot of them have taken that bag. We think that they've sold out, but it's pretty evident. They're not really teaching the names. They're not really pushing the names like that. Especially IUIC. They're not teaching what the MOTB is. And ultimately they're gonna have to pay. They're gonna have to be held accountable for not really teaching their congregation and warning the congregation of what's about to come. Because we're still subject to payments. We got to pay these bills. We got to work these jobs, but that's all going to be done away with very soon when that MOTB, that charagma, gets made mandatory. But ultimately, this money, that we work for is just a defense. Like we're just working to get our daily bread. We're not working to get rich. Which a lot of Jake has that mindset of getting rich. 50 Cent, get rich or die trying. But now that we have this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, we know that all this life, this American Babylonian lifestyle, is going to be done away with very soon. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 7 and verse 12. For wisdom is a defense and money is a defense. But the excellency of knowledge is that wisdom giveth life to them that have it. That's right. Wisdom is a defense and money is a defense. And ultimately a lot of Jake, they sell out for money. They want the kingdom of heaven now. That's why they sold out. A lot of Jake has done abominable things, went hella off, pretty much going completely contrary to what Yahweh Shemel Shai commanded us to do, to be separate from the world, to leave this world behind, ultimately because this world is going to be done away with. This current age is going to be done away with, being ran by Esau, Edom, the self-proclaimed white man. But 2/3 of the nation of Israel, they don't believe that. They don't believe that this current life, this current age, of going to work, going to these 9 to 5s, taking your woman out on dates, building up your 401k, going to the clubs, to the bars, watching the football game on Sundays, that's going to continue on forever. But no, this devil, Esau, Edom, knows that he has a short time, and that's why he's coming down with that great wrath. He wants to get his end to the W to the O system up and running as soon as possible, because ultimately the elites, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, they know that Yahweh Shai is on his way back, and he's not coming back to give out lollipops and candies. No, he's coming back to bring this devil down and to destroy the wicked 2/3 of our people and these damn heathens. But Jake don't get that. They don't understand that the system is being broken and is gonna collapse, and they're not gonna know what hit them. That's why ultimately this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding is what's keeping us stable. Isaiah 33 and 6. The fear of the Lord is his treasure. But these 2/3 of the nation of Israel, they don't have wisdom. Their defense is money. That's what they're gonna look forward to deliver them their money. Stocking up on ammo, guns, whatever it may be, bunkers. But us, we know that as long as we get our daily bread, to not labor to be rich, just enough. This is Proverbs chapter 30 and verse 8. Remove far from me vanity and lies. Give me neither poverty nor riches. Feed me with food convenient for me. And that's right. We don't want all those, the vainglory, all the lies that have been given to us by Esau, Edom, the self-proclaimed white man. Because he lied to us from the time we came out the womb. You go to school for 12 years, and then after that you go to school another 12 years or another 4 years. You get your bachelor's degree, and you work up to be a good slave. Go work in the corporate world. Go to these 9 to 5s, these office jobs, whatever job it may be. Ultimately, that was a lie that was told by Esau, Edom, the self-proclaimed white man. If you work hard and you go to school, then you're gonna be good. And a lot of Jake, they did that. They went to school. A lot of them, they might have made it to the NFL. But ultimately that's all a stumbling block. It says neither poverty nor riches. And that's what was given to a lot of Jake. They were given riches, but a gift destroyed the heart. That's why when the MOTB gets presented, that's going to be their stumbling block. They're going to want those millions back, those billions. They're going to want the fame back, the vainglory. And what are they going to do? They're going to take that charagma. And it says neither poverty, and a lot of Jake, that's out here homeless, don't got food. They're not thinking about Yahweh Shemel Shai. The celebrities that have gotten their consolation, they're not thinking about Yahweh Shemel Shai. They're not thinking about serving the Lord. So we're in that perfect balance where, we got neither poverty nor riches, just food convenient for me, our daily bread, our roof over our heads, the internet to be able to send out these videos, camera stands to go to camp, a car to be able to get to camp, take brothers, give brothers rides. These are all things that was given to us by Yahweh Shemel Shai to be able to do the work. But that's it. We don't need no millions and billions of dollars like these wicked ass Jakes out here. This is Proverbs 11:4. Riches profit not in the day of wrath, but righteousness delivered from death. That's right. All these riches that Jake have gotten, laboring to be rich, to be millionaires, billionaires, whatever it may be, selling out to Esau, Edom. All that's not going to profit when Yahweh Shemel Shai comes down with that great wrath to judge the wicked of our people and these heathens. What's going to deliver is righteousness, being covered by the blood of Yahweh Shai, being exempt, having that mark of exemption, that tawah, that is in Ezekiel 9:4. Ultimately because we're crying out Yahweh Shemel Shai to be delivered out of this captivity. We're crying out for all the wickedness that is being done. But 2/3 of the nation of Israel, they're not thinking about being freed from this captivity. No, they want to stay here. They want to continue to do wickedness and gather up corruptible riches. This is Mark chapter 8 and verse 35. For whosoever will save his life shall lose it, but whosoever shall lose his life for my sake and the gospel, the same shall save it. And that's right. We're not looking to save our life on this side because we know that we don't have a life here. We know that we're slaves. We're under captivity for going off against Yahweh Shemel Shai, for sinning against the Heavenly Father. That's why we're in the condition we're in now. So, we've given up this life for the kingdom of heaven. Some of us might have to be martyrs, might have to, go under that guillotine, whatever it may be. But ultimately, we know that we're going to be risen up first, and Yahweh Shai, if we're a part of that elect, Lord willing. But 2/3 of the nation of Israel, to get their so-called life that they had here in America, to get their millions, their vainglory, they're going to go down there and take that charagma to look to save their life. But ultimately, what's going to come with that is going to be that second death, that lake of fire, those missiles. Verse 36, for what shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Verse 37, or what shall a man give in exchange for his soul? And that's right. A lot of Jake has sold out, especially these celebrities, these rappers, these other Israelite camps pushing false doctrine, these Christian pastors that have taken the bag, to get us crumbs out of the table of Esau, Edom, the self-proclaimed white man's table. You know, a lot of them have had to do foul things, you know, bend over, you know, sacrifice their family members, whatever it may be, you know, just to get crumbs that's not going to profit them when all hell breaks loose, you know, when those missiles get shot over here, you know. But that's Jake. They're in the mindset of selling out, of wanting to be rich on this side, you know. But, you know, how are you going to build a kingdom inside of another kingdom, you know? That's the mindset that Jake is in. You know, just like in the wilderness, you know, when they got freed, you know, when we exited the land of Egypt, you know, Jake wanted to go back. They wanted to go back to the land of Egypt because they had those dainties. You know, they had the cucumbers. You know, they had the onions, the fish, melons, the garlic, you know. That's the mindset that Jake is in. They don't want to leave this captivity. They want to stay here. And ultimately, Yahweh Shem Yahushua is going to leave him here. This is Luke chapter 6 and verse 24. But woe unto you that are rich, for ye have received your consolation. Verse 25. Woe unto you that are full, for ye shall hunger. Woe unto you that laugh now, for ye shall mourn and weep. That's right. A lot of Jake, 2/3, these celebrities, these rappers, you know, they've gotten their consolation on this side. You know, these other Israelite camps, they've taken the bag. You know, they're rich. They're doing pretty good. You know, a lot of them are making tens of thousands of dollars, maybe hundreds of thousands. You know, some of them millions. But you know, that's all of gift that destroyed the heart. You know, ultimately because they're not really thinking about being delivered out of captivity. You know, that was a stumbling block. You know, but us are the hopeful elect. You know, we have thorns. We were going through infirmities, having to go through these trials and tribulations, having to deal with the hell on a daily basis. You know, and ultimately that was put upon us by Yahweh Shem Yahushua to cry out to him, to pray, you know, to be delivered out of here. You know, but 2/3 of the nation of Israel, they're not in that mindset, you know, because they have received their consolation. You know, they're full. But ultimately, when all hell breaks loose, when that karama gets presented, you know, when Jacob's trouble, the pestilences hit, the plagues, the famine, they're gonna mourn and weep, you know, because right now they're full, they're laughing, they're in that spirit of mirth. But all those roles are going to be reversed very soon. This is 2nd Esdras chapter 16 and verse 40. O my people, hear my word, make you ready to thy battle, and those evils be even as pilgrims upon earth. That's right. We're in that spirit of being pilgrims. We're not in that spirit of settling down, you know, building generational wealth, building up our 401k, our stock markets, you know, whatever it may be. That, you know, there's nothing wrong with that, but we're not leaning upon that for salvation. We're leaning upon Yahweh Shem Yahushua. We're leaning upon the names. We're leaning upon having faith and trusting Yahweh Shem Yahushua to keep us and cover us when all hell breaks loose, you know, because ultimately we're calling upon on Yahweh Shem Yahushua now, you know. But 2/3 of the nation of Israel, they're gonna want to call upon the Heavenly Father and His only begotten Son when all hell breaks loose. But they weren't calling upon Him when everything was good, you know, when there wasn't a famine, when there wasn't plagues hitting America. Verse 41: He that selleth, let him be as he that fleeth away, and he that buyeth as one that will lose. That's right. You know, whatever we have on this side, we're gonna have to walk away from it very soon. You know, because we know that this current world, this current age, current aeon being ran by the devil, Esau, Edom, the self-proclaimed white man, is gonna come to an end very soon. Verse 42: He that occupieth merchandise as he that had no profit by it, and he that buildeth as he that shall not dwell therein. Verse 43: He that soweth as he should not reap, so also he that planteth a vineyard as he shall not gather the grapes. And that's the mindset of Jake. You know, they established all these businesses, you know, all these different forms of getting money to be rich. But ultimately, all that wealth that they've built up, accumulated over the years, you know, and all the wealth that in their minds they think that they're going to get, you know, years down the line, decades, They're not going to get it because this place is being plagued, it's being destroyed, it's being collapsed. And we know that this place that we call America doesn't have long. We see all the signs, all the prophecies playing out. World War III, Trump's with the tariffs. These are all signs that this place that we call America, which is Babylon the Great, is coming to end very soon. Verse 44, they that marry as they that shall get no children, and they that marry not as the widowers. And that's right. You got a lot of people still getting married, still, a lot of Jake going down in one knee and proposing to these wicked ass women. Ultimately, that all this current American lifestyle is going to be done away with very soon. It's all off. It's all way out of order. Verse 45, and therefore they that labor in vain. And all these Jakes out here looking to, get rich, be millionaires, billionaires, wherever it may be. They're doing it all in vain because all this stuff, this current lifestyle is going to be done away with very soon. It's all going to be burnt up. But wicked ass Jake 2/3, they don't get that. They don't get that this American dollar, this American lifestyle is going to be done away with. In their minds, they think that this place is going to continue on forever, but no, this place is going to be destroyed. But that's pretty much the point. Praises is edifying to the elect. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakudash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who all in this truth from the well. Peace and salutations to the 144,000 and the rest of the 1/3, the large multitude. Unto you I say shalom.